Hello, hello. So, welcome back to another episode. I'm Katie Papo, and this episode is part of the 2010 series. It's 20 weeks reflecting on my last 20 years of experience, the first 10 years being completely entrenched in binge eating and food struggles, and then the second 10 years being in freedom. And between those two 10-year periods, there was a short period where I had some really deep and profound internal shifts that allowed me to move forward with a lot more freedom. And these 20 weeks are about those internal shifts, so you can make them too. And the internal shift that I really wanted to talk about today. So, this is something that has actually taken me a while to even put into words, but it's for people, and this was me, who we've been able to stick to things in the past anyway. If, let's say, we joined a weight loss program, we would be the ones who would go all in, gear ourselves up, have the spreadsheets outlining everything. We'd have different sizes and colored Tupperwares, everything organized. We'd put it first in our life and we'd get results. I lost this amount of weight in this amount of time. I feel better than I ever have, and it feels great. But then, of course, what happens if there's a vacation? Or what happens if I'm moving or I go through something difficult? What if I go through a death or something that just completely throws me off? And then what happens? The weight slowly starts to come back on. Our eating habits start to get worse and worse. We find ourselves maybe back where we started, maybe worse than where we started. So at a certain point, we say, enough is enough. Let me get back to what I know works. And we join that program or maybe some other variation of something similar to that. It might not even be a formal program. It could just be I've set these rules and I'm going to follow these rules. And maybe this time it doesn't feel necessarily as novel. It's not as exciting, but we still have the discipline. We're like, I need to get back to where I was before. And maybe it's a little harder that time. Maybe we don't have as dramatic of results as we did the first time, but we get there. But then the same undoing pattern happens after. Something in life happens. We start to lose the focus and then it unravels. We find ourselves back where we were or worse. So we say to ourselves, all right, got to get my butt into gear. We go for the third time. Now, fast forward several more attempts, several more things that we've tried. Eventually, we reach a point where we can't go as hard. We don't feel as all in, partially because it's not novel, but also partially because we've already seen ourselves break the promises to ourselves. Let's say you were like counting binge-free days. At first, you were able to get 6 months straight. The second time, you were able to get like 40 days. Maybe then the third time, it keeps getting smaller and smaller. When I first started, I look at it differently now that it's hindsight. But what it felt like was I was first really focusing on my health. In hindsight, I think I was anorexic, but I did feel, it felt good. I felt this sense of control and I felt light. I remember it feeling positive. Even though now I look back and I know it was disordered, it felt really good at the time. I remember it was a whole semester in college where I just ate as little as I possibly could. I was eating these bars and I would just have a 300 calorie, like, I don't know if you remember power bars or there were these Adwala bars. That was just another brand. And I would just have one of those and I would then go as long as I could go without eating. And once I couldn't take it anymore, I'd have maybe half a bar just to take the edge off. And then I'd keep extending it as much as I could. But it felt really good. I felt in control. I lost a lot of weight and it felt positive. As time went on, that became impossible to do. Fast forward years later, I couldn't even go a day. And it wasn't even like I was trying to do anything miraculous. I was just trying to go a day without a binge. It didn't matter what I did. I could eat a lot the whole day or I could eat nothing the whole day. I would still end up binging. And I was like, what's wrong with me? I used to be able to stick to stuff and now I can't even go a day. I used to be so disciplined. I have no willpower anymore. I got to the point where I was writing contracts in my journal. I was signing them saying like, Today, this is your very last binge. No more binges after this. Like, I really did try to take it super seriously. I had accountability people, I did the support groups. Why is it that I used to be able to just go these long periods where I had this control, and now it's like I can't even have control for a day? You might be thinking this too. This is actually a really common thing. And the internal shift that I want to get into today is something that I made myself. But now, in hindsight, as I've been reflecting over my 8 years of coaching other people in this specifically, I've seen pretty much at least all my most successful clients that I can remember, they've gotten to that point too. And I actually do think it's an important point to get to. And I'll explain to you why. So when you've gotten to that point, I used to see this as a bad sign. And all my clients have also seen this as a bad sign. Like, I've reached my rock bottom. This is the worst I've ever been. But the reframe that I want to give you today is actually something completely different. That it's actually really important that you get to this point. And if you have gotten to this point, I would say you're actually in a good place right now. Hear me out, because I know it doesn't feel like you're in a good place, but you are. The fact that you've reached this point is actually amazing. I no longer see this as a sign that you've lost discipline, and I'll prove that point in a bit. I now see this as a sign that you have actually outgrown what it is that you used to do. And that's a very important stage to reach, especially now that I've seen it not just with myself, but with a lot of other people who I've worked with. I remember one person, she reached out, she tried I thought I had tried everything. She had tried every crazy diet to the point where she even was doing one that was medically supervised, where she could only eat one food. I don't remember what the food was, but it was just one food she was allowed to eat all day, every day. And when she came to me and she was kind of telling me a little bit about her background, I asked her what made her join this program. And she said, I literally can't force myself to do what I've been doing anymore. Like, I literally can't do it. And I feel like I reached that point too. I couldn't force myself to do the things that I used to actually be excited about doing. When I used to join a new weight loss program, or back when I worked in the weight loss industry and I was running the programs, it was almost like a high, blank slate, starting new, really exciting. And then I just didn't buy it anymore. I just didn't buy it anymore. Probably because there was just so many times I fell off of it. I just couldn't bring myself to go through that process again, not just because of the disappointment, but just all of the rigidity and gearing myself up, being constantly motivated and constantly hyper vigilant about what I was eating. I physically couldn't do it. And she got to the same point. So many other my clients got to the same point where I just physically cannot do it. And this to me isn't a sign of lack of discipline. And the proof of that is, look what you've already done. You have been so disciplined. I would say more than most people. Think about it. Most people you know today, could they do the stuff that you've done? Think about all the insanely difficult things you've done. Could they do it? And don't even just limit yourself to food. Think about your life. Whether it was graduating college, getting your master's, or maybe, I worked with a lot of doctors or therapists. You know how much schooling you have to go to, how many tests you have to take and study for? That requires such discipline. What about those of you who have saved up to buy houses? That takes a lot of financial discipline, doesn't it? Maybe you've started a business. Like, most people can't do stuff like that because they don't have the willpower to do things when they don't feel like doing them. There's so many things that we do in our daily lives that we don't give ourselves credit for, but most people can't do stuff like that. A lot of people are lazy. You're not lazy. And I think deep down, you're not lazy. So why would it be that, oh, I could be disciplined in everything else in my life, but not food? I would put movement probably into that category too, just because I was struggling with discipline, or so I thought, with food and exercise. I used to be so gung-ho with exercise to the point where I was definitely over-exercising. It was kind of my version of purging. I still have this best friend. Back then she was bulimic, and I was so jealous of her because I was like, oh, I wish I could just throw up the food and it wasn't sitting here, which I know is a very disordered way to think, but that was my reality at the time. And looking back, though, I think my version of bulimia was exercising as much as I could. But even that, I just couldn't do it the same way. And I even injured myself to the point where I physically couldn't do it anymore. So if you've gotten to that point, don't take it as you don't have discipline. What really is happening is you've outgrown the way you used to think. You've outgrown the things you used to do, the philosophies that you used to live by. On a deep level, they don't resonate with your core anymore because now you've had the wisdom through your life experience, seeing that they're not the sustainable answer. You've seen it. No one has seen it more than you. Nobody knows better. The reason why you're feeling like it's a lack of discipline isn't because that's the truth. It's just because you've outgrown this path, you've outgrown this way of thinking. But because you haven't fully stepped into a new path that is truly aligned for you and that would give you the sustainable solutions that you're looking for, you're in like a limbo. And I'll tell you, that limbo can feel so defeating. It can feel even hopeless in a way. I kind of have been equating it to that dark night of the soul, which we know that that's actually a necessary point to transition to something better. We have to almost reach this state of surrender, of throwing our hands up in the air, like, what else do I do, in order to even be receptive to what is coming next for us. So that's why I say, when you can't even bring yourself to do the things that you used to do, that's an amazing stage to be in. It feels horrible, don't get me wrong, but it is actually an amazing stage to be in, because now you've gotten to the point where you've outgrown the old. And without outgrowing the old, it's really impossible to step into the new. Even if you just think about, if you're climbing a ladder, like, just think about the mechanics right now of climbing a ladder. In order to get to the next rung, you need to let go of the bottom rung, right? You have to, or else you won't get higher. And I would say, just having worked with many people over the years, the difference between my most successful clients and I would say my least successful clients would be the most successful ones. Before they came to me, they already had kind of let go of that bottom rung. They're like, I can't, like, I literally can't even diet. So I'm not even seeing that as an option. They were able to fully allow themselves to step into a new beginning. Like, they were really able to put everything they had learned in the past aside and just fully focus and engage in a new process. Whereas the ones who were less successful, I would say the biggest hangup that they had was that they really couldn't let go of the bottom rung of the ladder. It was like they were trying to step into a new process, but also still trying to cling to the old process. So all of the things they used to do, counting the calories or whatever, they couldn't fully let go of that. And the problem with that, and this is the horrible irony, the things that we've done to try to solve the problem, like the things that we've done to try to lose weight, the things that we've done to try to stop binge eating, are actually the things that cause those problems. So for example, if you've been trying to stop the binges and trying to go binge-free days and obsess over what triggers you, and I need to keep this out of the house and be hypervigilant all the time, that only directs your mind more to exactly what you don't want. Same thing with weight loss stuff. All of that restriction, it makes us hyper obsessed with food. And we can see this not just with human psychology, but we even see it in the animal kingdom. Animals who have gone long periods with starvation, when they get food again, they're obsessed and they binge. We see it with animals. Why would we think we're different than what just exists in nature? So it's really important to see yourself not as somebody who's lacking willpower, but just a normal human being who, when you put yourself through these things, of course you're going to be more food obsessed. For example, my mom did Weight Watchers forever. She's going to be coming on my podcast soon, by the way. Definitely get excited for that, because she's come on a couple times and everybody loves my mom. But she did Weight Watchers a million times, it felt like. And what does that do, though? the more you're engaged in that process and you constantly have to think about it, and you're going to these meetings where you're constantly around other people who are struggling, and you're all thinking and talking about weight, you're all hyper obsessed about food, it's literally training your mind to obsess about food more, to obsess about weight more. And that is just the recipe for more eating and more weight gain. Even if initially you're restricting it, there's always going to be that backlash. Always. For every restriction, there's an equal and opposite binge. Like, it's physics. If you think even about pendulum, right? You can see my finger if you're watching on video. We swing all the way to this side, and the higher we go, we swing all the way to this side. You know those like pirate ship rides at those janky carnivals where like it just swings all the way up and then it comes all the way back. And the higher it swings to one side, the more extremely it's going to swing to the other side. So, of course, after my period of anorexia and all my extreme restriction, I'm going to swing to the opposite side of binging. It's not separate. I mean, of course, the eating disorder industry would tell you that anorexia is one eating disorder, binge eating is another. I see them as two sides of the same coin. You're going to swing to the other side eventually. And when you do, it's going to be a big swing. So this is not that something's wrong with you. It's the strategies that have been so normalized, like all this weight loss stuff and all this obsession with food. They've been so normalized now. We see this as the solution. And then we try to stick to these things in order to control our binges, in order to control our eating. But in reality, this is exactly what's causing the overeating. This is exactly what's causing the food noise. This is exactly what's causing the food obsession. We need to be able to let go of that rung of the ladder in order to be able to reach higher. So if you're at the point now where you're like, I just can't do the things that I used to be able to do anymore, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you, my friend. You are actually at a very wonderful, pivotal stage that a lot of people never reach because they keep thinking shiny object, oh, well, here's another diet that my friend did and she lost 50 pounds. And so I'm going to try that too. So many people are just going to go shiny object, one thing to the next thing to the next thing. If you've reached to the point where you just can't bring yourself to do it anymore and you just don't buy into it anymore, that's a very positive thing. That's a sign of your maturity. There's wisdom happening in you that's learning that this is not your way. And we have to reach that point in order to be fully receptive to another way. So don't beat yourself. Don't beat yourself. This is nothing to be ashamed of. This is an important stage of your own evolution and your maturity. You have outgrown these things. That is positive. You have outgrown it. And just because you're in the limbo now, you're in the dark night of the soul now, where it's like, well, where do I go now? Well, first of all, you're here, which is great. Something led you here. And the fact that you're even open to this, like a lot of people are not open to the things that I'm sharing here because they're still very surface level. Oh, you just got to count the calories and move more than you eat. And it's very surface level. We know there's deeper forces at play here, and that's not the truest answer. We know it. See this as a positive thing. See this as your growth. And I'll tell you the way out of this, the true way out of this, not to the point where like, oh, what's going to make me stop binging? But I'm talking about like what's going to make you the person who doesn't even want to binge. That's a very different energy than just trying to not do it. Because what that means is now you're living in a different brain than what you used to live in. You're now in a new normal. And I've given this analogy before with the stock market. So if you can see my finger if you're watching the video, it's an upward trend. But even as it goes up, you're going to see these little dips. Like if someone goes through my program, it's not like, oh, they never have a problem again. But what happens is they learn different ways of thinking and working with themselves and their own mind and with food. So what happens is if they do experience a dip, a challenge or something, then they learn from that, grow from that. Now they're stronger and wiser. Now they have another little increase, right? And I'll tell you, as you keep going, your problems get better, right? So you're not dealing with the old problems you used to deal with. There's always this upward trajectory. So even if you fall, instead of it just being like this roller coaster where it's just huge ups and downs, it's this upward trajectory where, yeah, there's little dips along the way, but it's still upward. Now, look at my hands, if you can, on the video. One is low and one is high. So I'm at the point now where my rock bottom now, let's say my rock bottom now with food, my very worst food day is still so much higher than what my best day would have been 10 years ago. So I'm living in a new normal than what I used to live in because I'm living in a different brain now. So know that even if you're not where you want to be yet, you've still reached an important point that now in hindsight, looking back at my journey and also my most successful clients' journey, we've all reached that point. And it does suck in a way to be in that dark night of the soul and to feel that kind of hopelessness of, I've tried everything, but don't necessarily just buy into that story. Instead, I find it really helpful to reframe and say, like, you know what? I've outgrown what I used to do. I'm ready to step into a new phase of my evolution as a person. Those things, maybe they didn't work because they're pointing me to something richer and deeper and better. And instead of saying like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me? Like, what if this wasn't happening to me? What if this was happening for me to point me somewhere else? And I'm so grateful because if I had stayed in that realm and I was just continuing to try the things that I've always tried and failing in those things, I wouldn't have developed as healthy of a relationship that I have with myself. I'm so much sweeter to myself now. I'm so much healthier, and it really does come from a place of ease and genuine desire to take care of myself. When I eat, it's from a genuine place of nourishing and fueling myself. I don't want to hurt myself anymore. I really don't. And I love myself so much more. And it's showing up in everything that I do. And if I just tried to stick with what I was doing before and just kind of be that authoritarian, like, Katie, you need to get it together. You need to pull it together. Like, I don't want to talk to myself like that because I'm with myself all the time. I don't want to feel like someone's beating me constantly. And all the studies now, by the way, have shown that people who are kind to themselves succeed in every measurable way more than the people who are endlessly berating and criticizing themselves. It's one thing if it worked, you know, but now we're seeing, even from a scientific framework, that that doesn't even work as well. You know, a lot of people think being kind is just kind of letting yourself off the hook. It's not. When you really love someone, you want to take care of them. So the process out of this is through love. Like, that needs to be the core. If you really want to create a loving relationship with yourself where you couldn't even bear to hurt yourself, if you want to create a peaceful relationship with yourself where food is no longer a chaotic or frenetic part of your life, then the method needs to be through peace, through love. Like, when I even, as you guys know, hold on, I have to let the cat in. Can you fit, baby girl? Oh, now I can't reach the door. Okay. Um, so as you know, just over the last month or so, I've been auditing my program because I've did updates in the entire thing, and it took me a little longer than I expected, but I'm finishing up now. And when I record a lesson or record a meditation or something, the filter that I always do is this going to bring them more peace in their relationship with food? Is this going to bring them more love and respect and compassion for themselves? Because when you build that, think about it. How much more successful are you going to be when you have a support system that lives within you all the time, right? We think it's the critic that helps, but if that worked, I mean, it would have, right? Let's be real. It would have worked. I used to think it worked. And honestly, I like to promote things that work. Like, if that worked, I might still promote it to some degree, but I also see it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And it's not fun, and it's not sweet, and it's not kind. Why would we build habits that aren't sweet and kind? especially to ourselves. We spend our whole lives with ourselves. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? Because we think it's what works. That's why we would do it. We want to succeed because we're success-oriented people. But now the type of success that you're going to get is going to come from a completely different place. And that's why it's a blessing that you can't stick to what you used to stick to. It's a blessing because now you can move on and be open to a new path that will give you that new brain to become that different person to yourself. And then you will have a new normal where the things you struggle with now, I mean, you won't even think about that in the future. It won't even be part of your consciousness anymore. And I've seen it with myself, and I've seen it with so many other people now that that I can sit here and say to you with confidence, you are in for something so much better than you ever even could have imagined. And you wouldn't even be able to get to that point if you didn't outgrow what you've done before, because you wouldn't be open to it. You're actually where you need to be right now. And it's up to you what your next steps are. And by the way, I know I just mentioned my program, which has not been open because, like I said, I've been getting the final touches together. But I'm going to announce the enrollment date. Hang on, let me look at what day of the week that is. So on August 19th, which is a Wednesday, I'm going to send out an email to my email list with all the information to join. The program is called The New Normal because that's ultimately what you're building. You're going to build a completely new normal with yourself around food. So it's a 16-week program. I'm going to coach you through everything and be with you every single step of the way. So if you want information about that, you can join katiepapo.com/resources. That's my email list, katiepapo.com/resources. I'll put it in the show notes. So if you're feeling intuitively like this is the path for you, trust yourself. Trust yourself. It'll be the most beautiful ride because it's not just about not binging. It's you becoming the person who this is not even relevant for anymore. Food will literally be a non-issue for you. And honestly, it's been one of the most fulfilling parts of my life is to see. I'm even getting teary-eyed right now. To see people go through that process. And my mom, who's going to be coming on the podcast, we're doing her interview tomorrow. But she's been through this process, which again, I'm getting teary-eyed again. Seeing my mom, who was struggling so much, and the transformation she's had has just been like, even if she was the only person I helped, it would have been worth it. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for you to hear her story too, because she's inspiring. She's also very funny. She's very relatable. So definitely tune in for the next episode with her. You'll appreciate her. And once again, don't be so hard on yourself. Like you're at a really important stage of your journey. So hang in there. Good things are coming. Talk to you soon.